Welcome to the 611 Experience Mukbang.
You want to tell people what a mukbang is, kind of?
Well,
I'd never heard of it.
I had not heard of it. Was watching High Carb Hannah, and she and her husband did this thing called a mukbang, and I didn't know what it was, but they were eating on camera and talking about stuff. And so I Googled the word, and it was something that came out of Korea, where on television they eat large amounts of food while they're having a conversation. And then I've watched Mommy Tang. She's another one that cooks and talks. She has mukbangs, and so we decided that we're going to try our own style of mukbang.
I'm not really sure why people would want to watch us eat, but that's okay.
Well, and tonight we're having sweet potato quesadillas, and they're still quite hot. And I just shot a video on how to make those. If it turns out and I actually know how to get it uploaded, then you would be able to know how to make them yourself. So we're going to eat and talk about, well, this is a spiritual mukbang, which I don't know if there is anybody else that does a spiritual mukbang.
It's not illegal, is it?
We're making
breaking
this up.
new barriers.
We're making this up as we go.
So tonight's topic is
Honoring the Sabbath. And a spiritual principle that was laid out very early in the Bible. On the seventh day, God rested. And he set an example for us. Brian and I are trying to embrace that principle more faithfully.
We are. This probably, I think it's a concept that most people that are Christians recognize the importance of having a Sabbath. And I think in today's world, I think it would be inappropriate for us to say that has to occur on a Sunday. But because of our schedule, that's the day that we have chosen to try to honor God and to rest. It kind of, like I said, we've known about it, we've tried it before. It kind of, over time, seems to kind of creep away from us. We are no different than any other couple or people that we have a lot of responsibilities. We're, quote, busy a lot. As I sit here right now on a Sunday evening, there's probably 10 things I could be doing. So probably for the last, I think this is our 4th or 5th Sunday that we've tried very hard to, get into a routine of the Sabbath. The conviction that occurred really was we watched a sermon by our friend Pastor Tim Harris out of Woodburn, Kentucky. We'll put a link to that sermon if you want to watch that, but we watched that at our Sunday morning experience 4 or 5 weeks ago now. That's part of his Remember series, and both of us kind of came away with that, like, well, we can't just shake that, we can't just ignore that. The Word of God convicted us. We both came home and talked about it later, that somehow we've got to figure out a way to get the work done that needs to be done in our lives, but also to rest and honor God on the Sabbath. So we both felt like Sunday was the best opportunity to do that. So we kind of just made this commitment, because normally, I guess maybe you should tell them what was normally going on a Saturday, so people can kind of understand, like, well, why is that so difficult?
On a Saturday?
No, well, I mean, what our normal weekend looked like, and then talk about, like, what our Sunday was like and how we've kind of had to rearrange things while I eat.
Okay, you start eating. It's still kind of hot. So our schedule had been at work. We're a 611 Bakehouse, where we run a cafe and sandwich salad shop. Was on Mondays we worked the hours that we were open were 7 to 10, which means we got down there at 5 in the morning. And then Tuesday through Friday was 7 o'clock till 2 o'clock, and we were closed on Saturdays, closed on Sundays, and that had been our schedule since January of 2016. It's now summer of 2017. Then when we did that, when that was our schedule, Friday nights we'd stay up pretty late, because that was like the end of our week, and we knew we didn't have to get up on Saturday, and so Saturday was kind of our, quote, day off. It didn't mean we didn't have tasks. Sometimes people were using the building, we had to hang around, but that was in general the day that we didn't do as much work.
But we still worked.
Still worked, but didn't do as much work. And then Sundays, ever since we started doing our online shopping at Walmart, we place the order on our phones, and then we did that on a Friday night, and then we went down Sunday morning and picked up our groceries at 8 o'clock, came back, that was in Edmond, and then went to church in Edmond at Life Church, stayed for almost an hour, left during the prayer, drove back, got back to Perry around 10:15, and since this past January, our church service was starting at 11 o'clock, so we'd have to unload groceries downstairs, unload groceries upstairs for our own personal groceries, and be ready to have church by 11 o'clock. That was all a big hustle.
Yeah.
And it was very timed. I mean, if there had been anything that went wrong in the, like a storm or a car crash that delayed us, anything like that, it would be...
We would never made it.
It would be not good. And so after church, we would take apart church, which that didn't take long, 20, 30 minutes, and then come upstairs.
I don't know if you can take apart church, but the physical environment.
Okay.
That sounded kind of funny.
Put church away.
Church in a box, that actually is a concept.
Okay.
Kind of like that.
We had a little cart. We take everything off the tables, take the screen off the wall, take down the computers. Took about 20 minutes. Takes about 20 minutes. So we'd be upstairs by 12:30 usually. We'd eat a lunch. I'd usually start to batch cook something for our personal cooking for the week. Brian would go downstairs, and we'd work until 4:30, 5 o'clock.
At least.
And so sometimes we'd take a nap, sometimes we wouldn't because it'd be so late. We're like, oh, if we take a nap now, it's going to ruin going to bed. And so Sunday was a very, very full day. It was not a day of rest. We fed ourselves at church in Edmond, and we actually, because we have a smaller group here, we actually were able to listen to the message here too. But when we saw that message about taking a Sabbath, we were just like, light bulb moment, and something's got to change. Big time. Not just a small change.
Well, and I think the challenge for us was that, and it's probably true of most people, is that we just didn't think there was any way possible that we could really rearrange enough to take off virtually an entire day. Now, Sundays, like today, we do set up for church, and we have church, and that whole process probably takes, an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. So we still do that, but that's part of our calling here. We recognize a gathering of people for a church experience is a part of why we're here. So for us, that's a little different than going downstairs and prepping, prepping for food, or moving things around physically to get a room ready for a group, or just whatever it may be. So it would be wrong for us to say it was an easy switch and it's an easy transition, and I'd be honest to say that it's not even that easy even today, because my mind, I think it's going to take us a while to get into the routine of I feel very pulled. You have to recognize, those that don't know us maybe, we actually live on the second floor, and our coffee shop and our cafe is actually on the first floor, so we actually live where we work, or vice versa. And so there's always that pull to go down. It's not like 30 miles away or something like that. It's so easy to just be upstairs and to be drawn to the downstairs, because our work, just like a lot of people's work, is never done. We don't, there's not a point at which I can say, hey, I'm caught up, I'm done, I don't have anything else to do, because there's always plenty to do. And Tina's the same way, whether she's got to bake cookies or whether she's got to order food, or whatever it may be.
Make up new recipes.
Make up new recipes, whatever it may be. So we were certainly challenged.
This is good. It's messy.
It is good. We were certainly challenged, to think whether we could actually do it. And it's we're only 4 to 5 weeks into it. What I can say is that we've done it in the sense of, like, we have rearranged our schedule so that we actually are taking, for the most part, Sunday off.
I'll talk about that if you want.
Yeah, what I was going to say though is two things, and then I'll let you talk. Maybe it'll overlap. Saturday, because of that switch, we've now moved our hours so that Saturday morning, we're actually open on Saturday mornings now, from 8 to 11. We had talked about that for some time, even before the Sabbath, because we think it's a great time for the community to gather and to come and sit and enjoy the coffee shop that maybe can't come during the week. So what we do really then is we do that work, and we prep as best we can after that, after the customers leave, and then we kind of do what we did on Sundays. So we're prepping I'm getting water. We drive down to Edmond, get our groceries. We're blessed that we can go to a church that's on Saturday evening, and we go to church and we come back and we unload and finish up anything else that needs to be done. And like last night, we kind of were done about 8 o'clock last night. So Saturday is a completely full day. But today, Sunday, is not such a full day. And I remember in that sermon that Pastor Tim talked about that we in our minds have this idea that a weekend, I guess what I'm saying is a weekend is kind of a man-made kind of thing. There's nothing that says that people are entitled or should have 2 days off or whatever it may be. He basically kind of suggested that biblically you work hard, really hard for 6 days, and you do everything you can in those 6 days. You don't have to kill yourself, but you work hard, and on the 7th day you rest. And that's kind of what's happened to us really is Saturday is a full day. Tuesday, full day. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, rest. And then maybe you can talk about, Monday or whatever else. There was something else I was going to say, but that's...
You also... get to point number 2?
Well, I think point number 2 was... Let me think what point number 2 was. Well, I think point number 2 is this. I don't think we want to be like the Pharisees on Sundays in terms of like, for the Pharisees, if you did anything on a Sunday, and that got to such an extreme that you couldn't even carry something.
Your donkey out of a hole.
Yeah, you couldn't even carry something from one side of town to another side of town because that was quote work. If you knocked up the dust or whatever. I don't ever want to become like that. I had to order food today. I had to go downstairs for 15 minutes and do that. We moved a table that we needed to move so that I can be better prepared tomorrow because Tina's not going to be here on Monday. So, I don't want to be that ridiculously like the Pharisees, but in general, this has been a rest day for us, especially in comparison to where it was. Yeah. And it's not just rest, it's really honoring God. And I hope and pray that as we get into a better routine, that I spend more of this day in prayer, reflecting and reading the Bible or reading a spiritual book and, putting in some spiritual disciplines. But, we don't want to go from, we don't want to go from like, working all day to suddenly not doing anything at all. It's kind of a small step kind of process. So right now, just honoring it is our main thing. And then for me, implementing some spiritual disciplines on that Sabbath is kind of the next phase of that. I think that was my second point.
Oh, good.
Now you can make your point if you can remember.
Hey. Well, one thing is just having the whole paradigm shift where in your mind for so long Saturday's been a day off, and so to go from Saturday being a day off, and for quite some time we had lots of customers that kept mentioning being open on a Saturday. You guys ever going to be open on a Saturday? And we were just, I think because in our mind Saturday was our day off, we were just really against it when we would talk about it to each other. We didn't,
very protective.
In front of them, we were just like, well, you never say never. We might someday do that. But somehow, after that Sabbath sermon, it was like, I don't know, it became, I didn't feel as locked on to not ever doing a Saturday. And it was almost like it made it easier for me to think about making the shift. Now, the thing is, in your mind, like you can do the physical shift, like okay, Saturdays we are now open, but it takes a while to get out of that mental habit of Saturday's my day off. It's been ingrained for so long to think that Saturday is a part of our weekend that for me, I don't know about Brian, but for me it's just taking a little bit of a slower mental shift. When I get done working from 8 to 11 and we clean up and I sit down and have some breakfast, kind of an early lunch, breakfast. It's almost like, well, I feel like I'm done now. It's Saturday. I'm going to go upstairs and do something. I'm like, oh no, I've got to prep for as much as I can for the next week, things that won't spoil in those few days. And so it's just kind of getting into that new routine and not being so locked on to that Saturday was my day off. And the same sense, after having Sundays being so crammed full and busy, it's like that flip-flop of now Saturday's going to be that day and Sunday's going to be more my day of going to church here and doing just that little bit of cleanup and doing a little bit of batch cooking for us for the week, so I don't have to cook so much during the evenings during the week. So that's still a little bit of just, to me it's not work because I love cooking, but it's also just a time of slowing down, reading a book.
We took a nap.
We take a nap most days, but today it was just like really looking forward to that nap and that break time and not being in a hurry for anything and not feeling like I need to load my schedule with stuff.
Yeah.
It's a mental shift. And like Brian said, about the introducing new practices, I just read a really good book called The Power of Habit, and it's really been interesting to me to know that any habit that I already had established, any habit can be changed, and just knowing that I can change my mental mindset, I guess, to Sunday is a day of rest, and just honoring it and embracing it fully so I feel more restful. Even my body's resting, sometimes my mind is not as rest. I guess it's
I think that's my point really, is that I think I've made the shift physically to just kind of hold tight on Sunday, but mentally there's still some things that need to shift to really honor God and to honor that Sabbath. But we should say, as we get ready to close this out, because we're trying to keep this at about a 15 to 20 minute, is that I think both of us recognize, I mean, obviously we're unique in the sense that we have our own business. We have the ability to shift some things around. Not everybody has that capability. There are certainly people in this world who have to work extraordinary hours to, financially make it in the world, or, whatever it may be. They may have to work 7 days or 4 days on, 3 days off, whatever it may be. I think it's important to understand that we're not suggesting that it has to be Sunday or it has to be Saturday. I think what we're saying is that to try to block out some time, given your schedule that you may or may not be able to manipulate very much, although I'd be open-minded as best you can, but to block out some time to really just rest. And, rest means different things to different people, but not just continually getting caught up in the hurried pace of life and forgetting about really why we're here on this earth and who we're here on this earth for, and how our lives can reflect His greatness if we just don't get caught up constantly in that hurried pace. And again, we're no more holy or anything than anybody else. This is a challenge for us. We are busy. We're hurried people. There's thousands of things that we could do every single day.
We're plugged into social media that can be a distraction, and
it can be, again, it can be a great thing to leverage relationships and to leverage events that are going on. So it's not all negative. And, again, we're not here to say, that you have to sit here and read the Bible all day on your, quote, Sabbath. But, again, honoring God, not just, I don't know, maybe that sounds too Pharisee. I mean, I don't want to take the Sabbath and sit around and watch TV all day. I'm not trying to be judgmental about that, but I want to clear my mind of some of the stuff that you get kind of caught up in during the week, the media, the news, and all of that kind of stuff. And again, that's not a habit I've completely found myself disconnecting from. Yesterday was the whole Charlottesville thing, and the Ku Klux Klan and all that kind of stuff. So the media is completely saturated, and unfortunately, I just like everybody else get kind of drawn into that if I'm not careful. So there's still some very important steps that I feel like I need to take, and it's probably going to be a small step. It may just be saying an hour on the Sabbath. I need to just be in prayer, go to a room and not have a phone, not have anything, and just
take a walk around the square without headphones on, and just be in nature that God created. So
again, I think finding what works for you and being open-minded that something can work for each of us. Whether even if it's not a whole day, it's a half a day, it's a 2-hour block, because your schedule for a given week is 7 days on and 3 days off, whatever it may be. Don't become a Pharisee about it, but to try to figure out a way to really honor God and to have some downtime away from the media, away from all of the distractions that each one of us have, and to I think we're going to see real benefits from it. I mean, I think we already have. Sometimes we've always kidded that the less we do, the more God can do, and I think that's really true. The less that we try to do every single day, the more He can do. And this is true of what's happened in our business in terms of the 611 Bakehouse. Is we're open now less than we used to be to the public. We're 4.5 days, and we used to be 5 days. Actually, we used to be 6 days.
Mm-hmm. 5.5.
And from a financial standpoint and from a relational standpoint, we're as busy and see more people in those 4.5 days than we were in the 5 and 6 days. Mm-hmm. So the less we've done, the more God, I believe, has honored that. And I think that's true of our personal lives as well.
So I think just making that mental shift and becoming aware. Awareness is really a first step of what you intend to do. So your intentions are changing and you're just aware. You kind of have it in the back of your mind, maybe all throughout the week, of what is it I can do this week to honor God by resting. And rest is different for everybody. So it's going to be personal to you. You understand the basic concept, and that is resting to honor God. So
thank you guys. Our time is up.
yeah, our time is up.
So we will see you another time. You can comment down below or whatever it may be.
Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, and we will talk soon.